2 lanes to keep right.
Hey everyone, thanks for watching. This is Prepare to Go There, the most overlooked and underrated coaching conversation that we can be a part of today. That's my opinion, but I'm convinced that our future deserves our focus. And so that's what we're here to do. We're here to put in the necessary, sometimes unnoticed work, because we know that when we show up, we want to show up ready. And so if you've been kind of, struggling with procrastination, this is going to help. This is going to give you the motivation and the strategies to develop a lifestyle of preparation. And what that's going to do is it's going to give you a head start in the future frontier. So welcome back or welcome aboard. A big conversation today in our extended coaching journey. If I haven't mentioned yet, my name is Peter, and thank y'all for just being a part of this. And so many friends and leaders are doing amazing things kind of underground, kind of, off the radar. And it's because you don't need everyone else's attention, everyone else's approval to do great stuff. You don't need everyone else's supervision or permission to make progress, massive progress in your life. And so that's why you inspire me. And I hope that I can equip you with the practical, tactical stuff to pioneer your future with others in mind. So I want to start with the why, and then we'll get into collect your gains. I've noticed from experience and observation that most people don't know how to lead others into a better future because they don't know how to lead themselves there first. And so the theme of this video podcast has been and will be self-leadership. And yes, it's all leadership, and there's a lot of great stuff about leadership, but I've just noticed that we need a lot more on self-leadership than we're probably getting. And it makes sense because we're doing this every day. You're not always leading in front of a lot of people. You're not always leading the charge in your organization. But you are always leading yourself, and you will always need to do this kind of stuff. So let's get more encouragement, more strategies so we can get going and keep growing. And so that's what we're here for. We're here to figure out, how do you lead yourself tactically day by day? And then how would you stay focused practically on the future you're working towards, waiting on? And if this resonates with you, I want to invite you, be a part of our community. We have an amazing email community where there's, coaching conversations like this, but also projects and opportunities. And you can only get them with the future friends. So I encourage you, find some people that will dream about the future with you, and then go on that journey to help you go the distance, make a difference. I really want you to be in the Future Friends email community right now, because there's going to be a lot of projects and invitations that go out, opportunities for you to get involved in the coaching. And I'll give you an example. One is going to be our FutureFocused Leadership Mastermind. This is going to take this whole coaching journey to another level or another dynamic. And this is great, but it's not the same as actually having a conversation and going around with a lot of great leaders and hearing from them and working together on um, being intentional with our time and our lives and our leadership. So, in honor of Prepare to Go There 100, the season finale, it's going to be happening this Friday. I want you to bookmark it. Make sure that you show up for the season finale. And in honor of that, we are hosting the next day, literally just a few hours later, another mastermind, a group coaching experience online, and it is titled Future Focused Leadership Mastermind. So this is a serious in-depth group coaching experience, a 3-hour leadership mastermind. It's going to be live and online, and it's a small group of friends and leaders that are going to be pulling together. The roster is growing. I'm so excited. All the names that are already coming in. I'm just blown away when I think about who's going to be in that conversation. And it's not just 3 hours of just wandering around. It's a guided leadership mastermind. There's going to be 6 30-minute sessions, and we're going to cover throughout that time 5 strategic areas that you and I are going to need to lead ourselves and others well. And the theme is taking new territory in 2022. And that's a good idea, but what does that look like practically, and how do we get there? And so we're going to be talking about that, the 5 strategic areas to take new territory, specifically with a team in mind. So this is going to be a little bit different than the podcast talking about self-leadership, leading yourself. Now we're actually going to build on all of these principles and best practices, and we're going to apply them with a team. And so whether we're talking about your self-leadership in the team environment, or communication, or we're talking about time mapping, talking about vision and decision making and strategy, talking about developing other leaders around you. All of these strategic areas are going to be covered, and I really want you to be a part of it. You say, how do I get there? What do I do? You got to get in the Future Friends email community, because that's how I've been communicating with that community and letting them know all these details. And that's just one example of many more projects and opportunities that are going to be coming up. I've mentioned before, I'm working on my first book for this email community and this group of leaders, friends and leaders. It's called Field Guide for Your Future. And I'm hoping it will be a great Christmas present, and that it will be my gift to you to have a great new year. And then just more and more projects are growing out of that. So today, we're going to continue the conversation. How do we collect our gains? How do we collect our gains? It's so important that we finish things well. And so we're going to zoom in on every day. If you kind of want the big idea and you want to see the scope of this, you can go back to the last episode. But we're going to zoom in and talk about every day. And it matters. Every day matters. And I believe that there are gains happening every day, whether you feel it or not, whether you think or see it happening, they are there. Those gains are there. I mean, imagine if you had a way to collect the gains of your daily insights, your daily decision making, your daily habits, your daily progress, your daily conversations. Man, if there were a way to actually convert all of those little investments and then to reinvest them, just keep investing that. It adds up. The compound interest is massive. So that's what we're going to focus on. And I invite you into this conversation, and I want you to personalize this, because the way you finish anything matters. The way you and I finish things matter. And we've got some options. For instance, there's a negative response, there's a neutral response, and then there's a positive response. The way you finish something matters. For instance, you could say, "Oh, I'm finished. I'm finished." But basically that means you just stopped and dropped and you just moved on to the next thing. You basically ejected from the conversation, the project, the workday, the commitment. You didn't really think about finishing. You just wanted to escape. That's negative. That will always have a negative impact on your future. And if you just stop and roll out, whatever you walk away from will be waiting on you the next time around. So, like, you can leave your bedroom like a hot mess, and it could be just totally disordered. But when you come back at the end of the day, you're going to walk back into that bedroom. Hopefully, you didn't have like a lot of leftover food out there. But that's an easy example, but I hope it is visual, because the way you walk out of one space is the way it's going to be waiting on you when you come back. So that's the negative response. There's also the neutral response. This is where you basically pick up after yourself, right? Whenever you finish something, you've got a definition of done, you've checked off the list, and then you're going to do one of my favorite things. This has been a real game changer for me. It is simple, but it is intentional. And that is one of the best combinations. If you can find things that are simple and intentional and do them again and again, you will see beautiful ripple effects far and wide. But I like to reset to ready. Reset to ready. It's just a little phrase that I've been working on. And reset to ready means I'm thinking about next time. I want to be ready to go next time. So for instance, when I, drive my car, park it in the driveway, I want to make sure that it has gas in the tank for the next time. I don't want to have to go, "Oh no, I'm not ready," right? Reset to ready. That's a simple example, but it applies in a lot of different ways. And that's good, but that's kind of neutral, right? You're just kind of getting back, you're getting out of the negative, and you're just kind of ready for anything. But collect your gains can also be very positive. You can have a positive impact on your future if you learn how to connect what you're doing today with what you're going to do in the future. So the positive idea is where you actually set things up for the next time. And this puts you ahead. And so when we talk about collecting your gains, let me tell you what is really at stake. Are you going to go backwards with procrastination, or are you going to go forwards with preparation? Are you going to fall behind, with procrastination, or are you going to get ahead with preparation? So that's what I want for you. I want you to learn how to pause before you leave a conversation, before you leave the inbox, before you leave the house, before you leave the work site, before you leave a commitment, before you leave a month, before you leave the year. And I want you to evaluate, how could I finish up intentionally so that way it reinvests all the stuff that's been going on today into my future. I love this quote from a legendary leader, John Maxwell. He says, every day you are either doing one of two things. Every day you are either preparing or repairing. You're either preparing or repairing. In other words, you're either building towards something or you're fixing something that's been neglected and broken. So we want to see the finish line differently. The finish line today is connected to a much longer timeline. Your finish line actually has a lifeline that it's connected to new and needed moments, interactions, contributions. And if we will steward the way we finish today, it will actually set us up to finish other things that go beyond our scope. So I want to use an example for collect your gains. And one of the easiest is just walking through a normal day, an average day. And I want you to think about how you would incorporate this idea, collect your gains, into it. And I think the kind of the main one, the bookmark, would be reset to ready, because that just applies to anything every day. It's not just the end of the day, but I've found if I will reset to ready after each work session, after breakfast, after lunch, after dinner, if I will reset after working out, if I will reset to ready after having a meeting, it just kind of keeps a professional hygiene of sorts, and things don't build up and they don't kind of get out of hand and whatever. So that's one of the most obvious ones, but I want you to be using this principle in a lot of different ways. It's just an idea. It's not like a checklist yet, but develop a mindset that is going to see the value of the moment you're already in, and then, respect that value. Respect the value of someone else's time. Respect the value of the drafts that you've already put into a project. Respect the habits that you've been developing. Respect the time that you've already invested. And if you will collect those gains, you won't sabotage next time. You'll actually set yourself up for success again and again. So, a few things that I like to do is I like to summarize things every day. I think summarizing your day is important. I used the example yesterday of summarizing conversations. So whenever you're in a work meeting with your team, try to buffer the last 2% or 5% of the meeting time and say, hey, we're running close on our time. We can extend it if we're all good. No? Okay, yeah, we do need to finish. All right, well, let's collect our gains. What did we talk about? What did we decide? What are the actionable things we're going to work on between now and next time? Who's going to take ownership for each of those action points? Okay, can we write that down? I mean, this is basic stuff, but it's not automatic. You have to be doing this, right? That's why it does have to be intentional, but it also has to be simple. So collect your gains. Excuse me. Collect your gains in a meeting, collect your gains in a conversation, and also summarize the entire day Summarize like in a little journal entry. I know that sounds silly, but for real, like journaling is powerful. And if nothing else, you can just vent somewhere safe and know that you got it out of your system and you were casting your cares beyond you. And you can do this in a prayer journal. You can do this just in kind of like in a reflection mode. But another thing about summarizing your day, and when we say summarize, it means you take a long day and make it like very concise. Summarize means brief, means shorter. So it doesn't mean you take one little moment or one little conversation or one little awkward thing that happened in the day and then you expand it and you make it a bigger deal than it is and you read into it and then you create all of these hierarchies of emotions. Summarize means you're actually closing loops. You're saying, okay, this is basically all this happened. Basically, this is what I think an example of that, which is maybe a bit off topic, but funny to me. If you've seen the Marvel movie Endgame and Spider-Man rushes in and Iron Man says, okay, basically there's an alien wants a necklace from a wizard. Like he just summarized. There's so much context. There's like all this stuff that's already happened. It's building up, multi movie cinematic universe. And then he just kind of like, and it worked. That's just an example. Okay. So the point is practice summarizing. So important because if you get good at it, then you can actually be proactive with summarizing, proactive with thinking ahead. Okay, what are the big ideas for the day? What are the big ideas for the year? What are the big ideas for this team? What are the big ideas for this project? Let me basically go through all of the complexity and then let me come back with simplicity and let me present it in a summarized format. And then we can, explore and expand all of that together. And that's actually a good leadership principle. So take time and summarize things. I'll give you another example of how this works. If you don't want to do Dear Diary stuff, that's fine. But another thing that you can do is time tracking with your workday. Time tracking with your workday. So you do a weekly planning session, you've done time budgeting, and you know basically how much time you have to invest in each team thing you're doing. You know about how much time, ballpark numbers, how much you now have to work on projects within that. And so now you have to keep track of that. I don't track every minute of every day, but I do track my projects. And it makes sense for those, who are doing billing that way, but it's still a good habit. And I think it's a hallmark, or I think it's a tool that really helps in the self-leadership toolbox. If you can track your own time, you can be more intentional with what goes on in it. So what I'll do at the end of each work session, most days a timer goes off. I have to take a break. There's kind of like a little cool down of sorts. And I use that time to try to do bullets, not paragraphs, and just try to summarize what happened. What did I get done? Where do I still need to work? What's next? And it creates a very helpful reference point or something of a paper trail for myself. And that just stays in Evernote. But it's not that I'm going back and I'm looking at the archives, to see what I've done. It's the practice. It's the habit of staying attentive, staying engaged, and leading myself well. Another thing you can do when you're collecting your gains on the daily is just put everything back in its place. Just put things back. Everything needs a place to go. And you just feel better about the end of the day when things are put up. Um, that's just for free. I think we should all know this. I don't know that we all do this. And so I want to encourage you, do the little things consistently, and they will make a big deal difference. Now, I want to talk about another example. Prepare to go there. This video podcast. It's very easy. I could finish this and say, "Oh, I'm done. I'm so glad got that over with." And then say, "Well, I'm off to bigger, better things. I'm out of here." And I could just drop everything as is. Literally, my notes are still here. The coffee cup is still here. The screen's still open. Everything's kind of out of whack. So that would be the negative. Or I could do the neutral, which is just kind of declutter, kind of put things back. Or I could do the positive. What would actually help me take the value of what just happened and then reinvest that into another great experience or a bigger project that could have even more gains? And so, like for me, I want to back things up. So I will download, the live stream just as a backup. And I want to have it organized in the right place. So when I'm ready, I can have that, work on that, level up, whatever. Also, I've noticed that it does take a little bit of time just to kind of wind down. I'm still kind of thinking about prepare to go there. I'm thinking about what I need to talk about next. Or there'll be many times where I'll say, man, I didn't finish that. I didn't make that point the way I wanted to. Maybe I need to try it again another time. And then I will take a little bit of cool down time. The same way I had a cool down from the work session, I'll have a little bit of a cool down from the live stream here. And I will fill in gaps. I'll add more detail. Maybe I'll be thinking of specific examples and I'll just kind of fill it in. And now I'm that much more invested, that much better prepared to walk in, show up ready. And those are small, small things that we can do, but you do them again and again, and you will see big gains from it. Now, when I'm not on it and I don't feel up to that, what normally happens, we find some sinkhole, surfing YouTube, scrolling on social media, just kind of, binge watching what everybody else did that day. And you could say, well, I deserve it. It's not that bad, whatever. But here's the deal. Like, there's a difference between stopping and finishing. There's a difference between stopping and getting stuck. And I want to encourage you, like, when you stop, I want you to really stop. Actually unplug, actually step away from that thing and have a really clean, hard line, finish line break and say, that is done. And now I can focus on what's next. And you've got to practice these transitions in your day. So important that you're working on these transitions. So, to go back to that example of social media, it can be fun, it can be helpful, it can be productive. You can be making, um, meaningful connections with other people. But sometimes you're just consuming all this content. You're not even adding new value. You're not contributing. You're not creating. And what we're trying to do is collect the value so that way we can reinvest it into another day. Now, I want to finish with this. It's good to have the documentation. It's good to, um, summarize conversations or summarize how things went. It's good to do time tracking. It's good to do reflecting. It's good to schedule things, in the moment when they happen, schedule that follow up. You just had the conversation. Let's get together. Okay, great. Go do it right now. Go invest a little bit more time, put it on the calendar, make it official. Don't sit on it, but, go for it. You've got to have that quick implementation, and you could lose a lot more time. You could lose a big opportunity if you don't collect the gains in those little moments. And all of these tactics are good, and they will help add more value from the one moment you had. But there are times where you just have to stop. You just have to tell yourself, hey, it's okay to not be okay. It's okay to have a bad day. It's okay to be off. It's okay. We didn't get it this time. You just admit it to the group, you and your friends or you and your family. Is like, hey, you are the team. That happens. And you got to be okay when things run out of time. And really bookmark that feeling and say, man, I didn't like the way that day went. And you learn from it and you let it go off and you have a new day. You start over. And it's okay to stop even if you didn't feel productive. It's okay to pause before things have to go south. It's okay to regroup to give you the time to recoup. And sometimes we are kind of our own worst critic and we work on ourself too hard, too strong, and we will drive ourselves to keep going because we didn't measure up to our own internal expectations. But there are times to intentionally retreat. And if we'll intentionally retreat today, it can help us advance in the future. There are different examples of intentional retreats. I found an article about just in history, there were big battles in history where they were counterintuitive victories. They had an element of retreat involved, and then a victory came. But I think one of the probably the most classic examples comes from a real story in the Bible where there's a leader named Joshua, and they're at a place called Ai, and they had a real horrible defeat. And it was because they didn't basically follow through with the way they were supposed to lead themselves as a people. And there was, sin that was going on internally, and then there was just a lack of alignment and clarity going on the external side. But then they kind of recoup, and they get a strategic strategy. And it's basically a strategic retreat that was going to create an ambush so that way victory would ultimately happen. And I think we misinterpret downtime, and we think that downtime is defeat. We think that downtime means we admit failure. We think that our downtime is if I'm not working, then nothing will work. And you've got to have a little bit of just confidence and security and trust that the world does not revolve around you. And you have to trust that things can work out for your good, even when you don't feel like you did a good job. And that may be easier said than done, but it can happen. So I want to encourage you, when you're out of time at the end of the day, trust that there will be another time. And you're going to have to reassure yourself that you'll come back focused, you'll come back grounded, and you will keep going. That is the end of things for now. I really appreciate you being a part of this coaching conversation. I want to say thank you for going this far with me. I have a free fail-proof planning guide just for you. It's a PDF that will help you get going so you can get better every week. And it's not going to tell you what to plan, but it is going to be a step-by-step proven planning process. So that way you can identify values, goals, roles. You can think through your rhythms and routines and then begin to implement them with a consistent weekly planning session. If that sounds good, you can download it instantly, put your name and email in, and the links down below. Also, you can go to peterbirchfield.com where I share that. And then that'll also get you access to info about the Future Focused Leadership Mastermind I talked about before. Y'all, I really appreciate you. Thank you so much for your patience with me as I'm just learning and sharing these strategies with you. And thank you for putting in the work day in and day out. I believe we're going to have amazing reunions in the future where we pull together and we are just so encouraged by all of the progress that's been made while we were away. And that's really what it comes down to. Be grateful for every day you get. It's an opportunity to prepare to go there. Stay awesome. Keep putting in the work. I'll be back tomorrow. Prepare to go there.